Hey everyone, welcome to another Life and Student Ministry video post. My name is Tim Schmayer. I'm hanging out with Matt Brown, and he's an evangelist here in Minneapolis, and he runs thinke.org and also mattandmichellebrown.com. And we're going to talk a little bit about some 8 different suggestions and tips that you can really help the kids in your youth group start successful Bible studies on campus at their schools.
Yep, yeah, Tim, I've seen this was something that was a passion when I was actually in high school and learned a lot practically from that. But I've also seen some youth ministries do this really well, and it's been really effective for their youth group to grow their youth ministry and to make a difference in their community.
Yeah, I think one of my first experiences when I moved to Minneapolis, actually, when my wife and I moved here, we were new youth pastors, and there's some kids in the junior high who had just started a Bible study. They're like, Tim, can you come to our campus and speak? And I was like, absolutely, I will, So we went there, and there was just a couple kids, but it was just like, there's just something about that being together, even though it wasn't like a ton of them, that really helped those kids really be encouraged. So I think this is so totally important for us to really encourage our kids to do this.
For sure. I saw a youth pastor out in Washington, D.C. area. Went there probably about 4 years ago to speak, and this youth pastor at the time, he had about 400 students in his youth group. Awesome, really running well. But what was even cooler is that I noticed about him is he was running over 100 campus clubs between his students, and also kind of just connected with the other youth pastors in the area called Edge Clubs. The pastor, his name was Barry Phipps, and was running these Edge Clubs, and we got to go visit and speak at some of those while we were out there. And they were doing outreaches on their campus, and essentially, anywhere from like 10, 15 to even like 30 or 40 kids in these mini youth groups, essentially all over the city and all over the city area, community area. It was just amazing. Another thing that I saw is when I was in high school, started to do a Bible study when I was a freshman, because my youth pastor told me to. He said, if you don't have a Bible study in your high school, you got to start one. So because my youth pastor told me to, I did it, because that's what kids do. Well, that's what you hope.
Yeah. Not all the time.
Yeah. So anyways, I started to do that, and that first year I actually had typically about 2 of us, and it was the other kid that I'd pick up on the way to school.
Okay.
So that was the reason that he was there. One week we had about 6 kids, and I was like, revival! But actually it was because we had orange juice and donuts that week, so free orange juice and donuts. Yeah, so that's a key to growing your Bible study. But anyways, so that was something that I started as a freshman in high school, but then actually in Delano High School here in the Minnesota area, but started to continue over the next few years to grow that. And by the end of my senior year, we had about 40 kids coming. So it was pretty neat. And I learned a lot along the way about what to do, what not to do. So I just want to give you some practical steps to helping your students to do that. When we were in school, though, I also got to experience an incredible, there was a worship night that started with some Catholic youth, kind of grew into this interdenominational thing, and eventually was growing into hundreds of kids that were coming every week. So I got to see really God do a lot, what God can do through students, and as they just step up to the plate. So here's some thoughts. I was just thinking, first, just out of 8 steps, the first thing is timing. Helping your students decide what time of the week they're going to meet, and that totally depends on sports. Totally depends on what time their school starts in the morning. Ours started at about 8:15, so we did a morning one. Morning ones are tough, but what's even tougher is contending with sports that go on in the afternoon. So I would just say a morning, decide the best day of the week. Second thing, really probably could have been the first thing, is deciding what is the theme of their Bible study going to be. Help your students decide, are they going to be a prayer group? Are they going to be a Bible study group? Are they going to be an outreach group? In reality, hopefully they're doing all 3 of those, because that's what youth groups do. But helping them kind of decide a theme and running with that. Third thing is deciding location. The best locations you can be is somewhere in the school, and they would have to ask a teacher if they could be in their room. We actually held ours on a coffee shop, just a Christian coffee shop that was just a few blocks down in our town. Just because it was a cool area to hang out, it was comfortable for kids to come, but it would be best if you could do that in the school there. So, fourth thing I would say is deciding their curriculum. And kind of deciding what what it's going to look like for each Bible study, the timing, and kind of what I found by my senior year is, like Tim had his students had him come visit and share. One of the best things that you can encourage your students to do is to get some local preachers, teachers coming in, get their youth pastor, get their senior pastor, get some of the other youth pastors in town, or anyone who really could share with youth in a really good way. Yeah. And kids get excited about that. Kids want to come visit because you're bringing in guest speakers. So, and then obviously having students share as well, mixed in there with those.
Yeah,
so.
And I think when they have like an adult come in too, it's kind of like for the kids, you're like encouraging what they're doing, and they feel like what they're doing is like you are honoring that, or kind of like a check mark of credibility for their group. And feel like, ooh, if Tim's gonna come or my youth pastor's gonna come, they must really believe in what we're doing, think this is worth their time, So I think it's so totally valuable. But I think we got to be invited on most public schools. I don't think we can just go. I think they got to invite you.
Yeah, the student has to do it. So, and then for me, I was near a big city, so not everyone will have this, but we got to invite local Bible college students to come in. So that was really neat and really meant a lot to me as a student. So. Definitely encourage your students to do that. The next thing would obviously be worship, and what would be best is if they could have live worship. Okay. If they have a kid who's good enough, a young man or a young girl who's good enough to do that.
Otherwise, you hand out kazoos and
kazoos is, and that's actually that's worth it all right there. This whole youth ministry talk. So, the other thing that you could do is they could have eye worship or something like that. Sounds silly, but it could be a really kind of cool experience if you had a screen for it. So. The next thing, and probably a big thing that I could share about, is helping your students promote it. What they want to do when they're deciding to start this club, and they come up with a name for it, besides they could just call it Bible study.
They could.
Yeah, that'd be exciting. Or they could call
my kids called it just Bible study. Sure.
Or they could call it like the movement of a generation. Something. Yeah. No, they can call it whatever they want, but
just don't call it like. Extreme with the X, or or power, anything with
Power Rangers.
Or surgeon.
Don't call it Power Rangers.
Those words are just totally overused in the 80s. So.
Yep. So, and so once they come up with that, they want to go visit their principal's office and talk with their principal about it, and just share about what's going on. Ask, especially if it's on campus, ask if they can be putting up posters. And here's the student bill of rights.
Extreme power surge. That would be sorry.
All 3 words in one. So
if that's your ministry's name, I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway.
Oh my gosh, how do we go on from here? So
I don't edit any of this out, so this is the real thing.
Brilliant. So go to the principal's office, and actually, they want to get their principal's approval, but the reality is, if the student bill of rights from the government says if any other clubs on campus are allowed to do whatever they're allowed to do, the Bible study club can do. So if they can stick up posters, so that's kind of how it works. But so you can let your students know that. But definitely be respectful. Go to the school leadership, talk with them about it, let them know what you're doing, and then start promoting it. Put up posters, start giving out invites. You could if you really went crazy, you could maybe buy a bunch of McDonald's hamburgers, cheeseburgers, give them away with the invite at lunchtime. You could really go crazy, or Mountain Dew. You get a bunch of 36 packs or something.
Or
at Costco.
Like Rockstar.
Rockstar, and then call your youth group or your Bible study Rockstar. It'd be awesome.
Yeah,
so
there you go. Jesus is the rock. There you go, Rockstar.
Yep. So
don't use that either. That's
okay. I think I like Power Surge better.
Epic fail here.
So take that, and the other thing they can do is start going crazy they can go crazy on Facebook, getting their friends to invite. But another thing that they can do, and I just want to plug this, is if at See You at the Pole every year, if you could encourage your students to take down everyone's information, take down the kids who come, their names and their phone numbers, encourage your students to do this, and then they could literally either be texting them every week or texting them once a month, just letting them know the upcoming speakers, and the technology these days is incredible.
Yeah, I use textsignal.com for mass text messaging with my groups, and love it, txtsignal.com. So.
Yep. And then the last thing I would say is just to maybe they could even come up with some sort of budget for it, and this would be a whole nother level. You'd have revival every week with your orange juice and your donuts. But really, if maybe as the youth ministry of the church would be willing to just give $100 towards it for the year, or something to help them to kind of get some food, maybe once a month do an outreach and bring some food in or stuff like that. So just helping them along with these ropes and giving the students these practical steps really makes a big difference in having a successful Bible study on campus. So,
well, thank you, Matt, and Twitter and Facebook and all that stuff real quick.
Yeah, Twitter, Evangelist Matt. Facebook, Evangelist Matt, and then blog is mattandmichellebrown.com.
Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out with you guys. We'll see you again next week. Bye.